Hi and welcome back to MRTV. In this video, I'm going to summarize everything that we've learned from that long interview with the DecaGear 1 team so that you don't have to watch the whole 1 hour and 50 minutes interview. However, if you want to do so, I'm going to link it here, and probably you want to because that interview is really interesting. Anyways, stay tuned, watch the whole video because all of this goodness is coming up. Welcome back again here to MRTV. My name is Sebastian Ank, and this channel here is all about virtual reality. I'm bringing you independent XR reviews, you're getting the latest news and exclusive content just like this one here. So if you're into virtual reality, absolutely subscribe to this channel and click on the bell button so that you don't miss anything. All right, let's directly start with the summary. What did we learn about the DecaGear 1? And let's start with the display, lenses, and FOV. First of all, we learned that the device actually has 2 displays. So not just one display like the Quest 2 or the Rift S. No, 2 displays, just like, for example, the Valve Index or the Reverb G2. Then we learned about the resolution, so 2160 times 2160 pixels per display, very similar, no, exactly the same like the HP Reverb G2. Then we also learned that we have 90 Hertz, and that is the maximum refresh rate that we're going to get here with the DecaGear 1. And we also learned that there's going to be a full IPD adjustment, so not just like 3 positions, like for example with the Quest 2. No, we have a full IPD adjustment, just like on the Valve Index or the Reverb G2. Then I've asked them about the range, and they said the range is probably going to be around 62. For that lower measure, they were not exactly sure yet. It could be even lower, but they couldn't really exactly pin that down in the interview. But for the maximum of 72 millimeters, they were sure about that. Then about the FOV, with the current lenses that they have right now, they said that they can have an FOV of 114 degrees diagonal. That is exactly the same as the HP Reverb G2. But they also said that they're working on new lenses, on upgraded lenses, and for these other lenses, they're going to have like an FOV that's probably higher, probably aiming at around 120 or even a bit more. So for the current set of lenses, they are one element lenses, but they're working on other lenses that have, that are stacked upon each other. So that's something that we see with the Valve Index. And well, that might be then an FOV of 120 degrees diagonally or higher. Yeah, so these lenses, they are not off-the-shelf lenses. They are made or they are developed in-house by themselves. So that is something interesting to note. All right, that was about the display and the lenses and the FOV. Now let's talk about the facial tracking. So the device has 2 cameras that are looking at the user actually. So we're not talking about the 4 cameras outside that are responsible for the tracking. Now we talk about 2 cameras, like one camera is facing at the mouth of the user and the other camera is facing at the forehead and the eyes of the user. So everything that these cameras are picking up is translated into vectors, and everything is based on artificial intelligence. Now, this AI is creating the vectors depending on what they see. So if you do any kind of facial expressions, this is going to be picked up by those 2 cameras, and an AI system is translating that to vectors. And well, actually, the goal here is that games like, for example, VR chat can use these vectors so that people can use these cameras and have their facial expressions directly translated into multiplayer games, like, for example, VR chat. So actually, this is a hard problem because they cannot use open source face tracking software because, well, you cannot see the whole face of the user. These cameras only see the mouth, and the other camera, which is looking at the forehead, of course, only sees, the eyes and the forehead. So that's why this is a new problem that they are solving right now. Then I asked about partnerships, if they already have partnerships, like for example with VR Chat. And actually they do have some, but actually right now they are seeking partnerships with game devs right now, and the publicity that they're getting right now is going to help them, and also this interview and this video probably is going to help them. So VR Chat, if you're watching this right now, please do get in touch with the guys at DecaGear. They would love to work together with you. Yeah, then the integration of their SDK for that face tracking will only take a few minutes for developers. But the complicated thing is to make the characters ready, like the avatars, because of course you want to be able to show your emotions on these avatars. So there they said, okay, the real hard thing is actually to make the avatars ready for all these facial expressions. Then also the question, of course, can these cameras do dedicated eye tracking, something that we see from Tobii, for example? And the answer is no. This is not dedicated eye tracking like Tobii, but also there's no forwarded rendering because of that, but the pupil movement works though. So even this is not eye tracking like, for example, what Tobii is offering, but still the pupil movement can be tracked. So if you look to the left, then also your avatar will look to the left in VR. Also, these cameras, and this camera here, which is pointing at the forehead, this is like a 150 degrees fisheye lens. So this also sees part of the eyebrows, and the eyebrow movement can also, be sent to that avatar in that moment. For the privacy concerns, I actually asked them what's going to happen with all these videos and pictures that are taken of the face, and they said for the privacy, the pictures are not stored on the device and they are not sent to any server, and you can totally play offline even with this system. So you don't have to worry about your privacy here. Next, we talked about the tracking of the device, and here we learned that we have 4 camera inside-out tracking, and actually you can see those cameras on that picture here. And it's actually 2 systems. It's a SLAM system for the tracking of the headset itself, and it's an infrared object tracking system for the 2 controllers. And that's something very similar to what we see with the tracking of the Rift S and of the Quest 1 and 2. Similar to Quest, exactly. So for how it actually works, it uses pattern recognition instead of blinking LEDs. So for the Quest tracking, it's like there are like blinking LEDs in the controllers, and they are emitting like a 10-bit pattern, which is being picked up by the Quest cameras. And for the DecaGear controllers, everything is based on patterns and pattern recognition, and actually they showed me that in that interview, and well, they said it works very well, and what I saw in that video, it did look really well as well. But of course, I should first try this myself and then let you know what I think. But now, in this moment here, I'm simply summarizing what they told me. So they also told me that occlusion occurs very often when you use VR controllers, and we all know that, and that their system would deal with that in a very good way. Then I also asked if full body tracking is supported, because lots of people were asking, do you offer some kind of trackers for the feet? And then the answer was no, they don't. And the reason for this was that the cameras that they have on the DecaGear 1, it doesn't look down enough to be able to track the feet. But what you could do, you could still use the Vive trackers and use the OpenVR calibration in order to use the Vive trackers if you have the Lighthouse station as well. All right, the next topic here, the controllers. So they are pressure sensitive, just like the Valve Index. So if you press them, well, the controllers will pick this up, and it is not like with the Oculus Touch where there's a grip button, it's exactly the same like the Valve Index. Then the shell is covered by 96 capacitive sensors for finger tracking. So you have full finger tracking, just the same like with the Valve Index, and it's exactly the same skeleton model. So again, all the games that are working with the Valve Index and the Valve Index controllers, they will also work with the DecaGear controller. Then there is a battery included, a LiPo battery, that is included into the controller and that charges via USB-C. So it's not like the Oculus Touch controller where you would exchange a battery. It's exactly like the Valve Index controllers. Then the buttons and also the trigger, they have proximity sensors also to see where your fingers are and if your fingers are on the buttons or not. Very nice to see that. For the button layout, you have the Oculus Touch button layout with 2 buttons, a menu button, and then the analog thumbstick. Then you have the trigger and the touch sensitivity. Yeah, for the trigger, it's a dual trigger, it's analog, and in the end, there's a click. So right now, they will last 4.5 hours on a charge, but at launch, it will be 6 to 7 hours. So they will get to that by either putting in a bigger battery or by introducing some energy saving mechanism to make this happen. Also, it takes 1 hour to recharge the batteries over USB-C. All right, now we get to the headset itself and everything that we learned in that interview about the headset. So, in an earlier version of the headset, they had eye relief, just like the Valve Index, but this got cancelled, and now they have 2 modes, one for users with glasses, and you would put some kind of glasses insert into it, just like with the Quest, and one without glasses. So, for the without the glasses mode, your eyes are really close to the lenses, and that is to increase the FOV as much as possible. Then also there are infrared lights for the mouth and face camera that are actually shining at your mouth and that are shining within the gasket in order for the cameras to pick up something because, normally it's very dark inside the gasket. So that is something that they're showing in the interview, and if you want to see that, then absolutely watch the interview, and there are also timestamps. So let's go to the next point here. The face cam is a 150 degrees fisheye lens. I mentioned that before, and with this lens, they can take a video and pictures of all the eyes and of your brows, and that will help them to make those vectors for the facial tracking. Then the speakers will be integrated into the headband, like very similar to what we see with the Quest 1 and Quest 2. So it's not like something that we see on the Valve Index or on the Reverb G2 where the headphones are floating over the ear. No, it's something similar to Quest 1 or 2. Then you have 2 microphones on the device. Also, there will be a USB-C port or Bluetooth LE connection or both. So they're not sure yet what exactly they're going to put there, but there will be some kind of interface to mod the device and to add some functionality later. Also, there will be a headphone jack if you want to use your own audio system. And for the facial padding, it will be connected with a magnet just like the Reverb G2 or the Valve Index. And for the head strap, it's going to be very similar to the Quest 1. So not the same like the Quest 2 with that strap, more like the Quest 1. Now let's talk about the headset internals. So first of all, this is a PC VR headset, a Steam VR headset, and it only can accept games and content from your computer. So this is not a standalone headset, and it will never be a standalone headset. all the content comes from your computer. It can work in 2 modes. One is the cabled mode and one is the wireless mode. So for the cable mode, you're going to use DisplayPort and USB 3 connection. That is one thing. And then I asked about what's inside what kind of chipset is inside the DecaGear 1. And well, they told me they're experimenting with different wireless chipsets. However, they do not need something like the XR2 because these chipsets are not meant to show any content. The chipset inside the DecaGear is only to take care of the facial tracking and, for example, the tracking by itself, the normal tracking of the controllers and so on and so forth. So that's why you don't actually need something like the XR2, but you need something that works and that is cheap. Yeah, exactly. So tracking, cameras and so on, all processing is done on the headset in order to keep your GPU idle. Then if you switch, there's a switch for changing wireless to DisplayPort depending on the mode. That's inside. And before you start your play session, you have to decide, do I want to do wireless or do I want to do with cable? So within the play session, you cannot just get rid of the cable, then automatically you're connected wirelessly. No, you have to make the decision before you start your session. For the Guardian setup, everything is being done on the headset itself, seeing where is the Guardian, and all Guardian setup is done on the headset. And I asked, actually, how exactly does it work? Is it something like with the Quest, where you would paint it around you, or how does it work? And then they told me it is more something like on the Steam, where you would walk around your play space with your controller. Okay, so then for the wireless mode, I asked actually how it works, and they told me it's working via Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6. And they told me that Wi-Fi 6 for sure is going to be supported. They're going to make sure it's supported. If also the wireless 6E standard is supported, that has still yet to be decided, but Wi-Fi 6 for sure. Exactly, that's something that I told you before. The mobile chipset is not used for game processing like Quest. It's only meant for doing all these tracking and so on possible. So that's a big difference as compared to Quest, and it's not a standalone headset. Very clear again. Then I asked, how good is the wireless mode? And I asked specifically, is it as good as virtual desktop? And they told me that the wireless works mostly as well as virtual desktop. Now, that is great news. Then I asked about the latency, and they said the latency on Wi-Fi 5 is around 35 milliseconds, and they hope to make it even better and probably have something like 8 milliseconds less with Wi-Fi 6, but they have not tried that at all. So for Wi-Fi 5, they get to 35 milliseconds latency. And this is a totally Steam VR headset. This has nothing to do with Windows Mixed Reality. And then I asked them, okay, would you need some extra software, something like PyTool for Pimax or the thing that HTC has? And they said, no, you don't need that. Simply plug it in. If you have Steam VR, this will work. And for the special functions, like for example, the facial tracking, there might be some extra server and some extra tool, but if you don't care about that, then you don't need it, and then you can simply use Steam VR. Also, there's no need for extra software. I mentioned that, and now let's get to DECA Move. So what is DECA Move? DECA Move is a little device that you would stick to your hip. And, well, this tracks the hip direction. And, well, this is based on an IMU. So why would you stick that to the hip, that little device? Well, it is meant to always be able to tell where your body is facing. And that it will be interesting for games with free locomotion. So even if you look to the left, for example, you can still, when you click on forward on your controller, you will still move into the direction that your body is moving. So I think that's a really interesting idea. However, there will be some drift, probably after longer usage, after 2 hours, and you can easily reset the device by simply long pressing a button, and then the device will again look forward. Now, this is meant for better free locomotion, right? And yeah, you can look to the left but still move forwards, or look to the right and still move forwards. And however, this needs to be supported by game devs. And well, they need to include some little program into their code, and that's supposed to be very simple. And they do want to sell that separately as well. So they think it's such a good idea in general that, yeah, this should also work with other headsets, not just with the DecaGear one. All right, let's move on to the timeline and the price of the headset. I believe that's something that lots of people are really interested about, right? So let's talk about timeline and price. Now I ask, will you really be able to finish that in May 2021? And well, they said that May 2021 is an important date. Anyways, I would really encourage you to watch the interview because, well, it is easier for you to see how they talk about that date. Anyways, for them, they say that this date, to set that date, is very important for them. And, well, it is a signal to the team and to the suppliers, right? So this is probably something that is really important internally for them. And they do say that the technology basically is ready, right? They do use that prototype already internally, and they are going to start, or they want to order the parts in January 2021. Sorry, that shouldn't be 2020, 2021. Now, however, they also said that this May 2021 date is mostly wishful thinking. They want to finish it in May 2021, but they cannot guarantee it. However, they want to have a very transparent process. And yeah, transparency in the whole process. And they said that actually this interview that I conducted with the team is the start of this transparent progress. They want to invite the community to see everything. They want to bring everyone, with them on that long road to actually deliver it. And well, that is how what they said in the interview. So again, watch the interview and then you'll get a better feeling if this 2021 May date can actually hold. So I had the feeling that it cannot hold. I don't think, well, from the feeling that I got from the interview, I think that it is going to be later, but they do want to have a very transparent progress. And they also said that delays will not be unreasonable and will not take the innovation out of the product. So what they said is, if they just come up with this probably like half a year later, then this will not be an innovative product anymore because other companies will have come up with the same thing or even better things. So for them, it's like a must to bring that, to come out with the device as soon as possible. And they said delays will not be unreasonable and will not take the innovation out of the product. Yeah. Then, mid-January, they're going to have the first prototypes that are ready to be sent out to content creators like me. And, well, and now for the price. They said to all the people who have now paid or who will pay this $10 pre-order price, for them, the $449 price is for sure going to be the price. They will fulfill the device for $449 for these people who have now already put in $10. And in general, I asked them, okay, so are you going to increase the price later? Is it going to be that just now you have this kind of early bird phase and then later probably it's going to be $600 or $700? And then they said, no, the goal is to keep the $449 price throughout the product life. And they did stress that more than once. So again, please watch the video. It is a really, really interesting interview. Now, they said that the price, this $449, is important for them because for them, this is a branding statement. They want to be known for the company that is bringing great technology at a great price. So then I asked them, how many units are you actually looking forward to producing? And they said for the minimum for this kind of price, they need to do 5K units. So in order to achieve this 449 price. And that is also the same amount of units that they have the funding right now to actually produce. But they actually want to produce 20K to 50K units for the first production phase. But in order to make these 20K to 50K units, they will need investment. Right. Exactly. They can afford 5K units with the current funding. And with that, we get to the funding part of the interview. And that part is really, really interesting. So, right now, they are self-funded. It's like seed investment. And the investors are the two people that I talked with. So, it's Otto Kanzmann and Odette Daniel. And they have already put in several millions have already been invested. And with that money, they funded the last 3 years of stealth development. Now, the company wants to do a Kickstarter campaign. And that is really the big news that came out of this interview. I didn't expect this actually. I thought that, well, they would just seek investment. But no, they do want to do a Kickstarter campaign once the headset went out to the content creators like me or shortly afterwards. So the Kickstarter campaign will be launched after the content creators will receive the prototype in early 2021. And they also said like they will only start with this Kickstarter campaign once the content creators gave positive feedback and once the content creators really liked the headset. Yeah, so for people who have locked in the $10 for the pre-order, they will for sure get the $449 price no matter what prices will be shown on the Kickstarter. So probably if those people who put in the $10, if they missed the early bird pricing or whatever on Kickstarter, no, they will have that $449 price, and they stress that in that interview very clearly. So then I asked actually, how can they produce it, right? They are like a little company now, like probably 30 people or what. And well, they are, of course, not going to soldier and do that all this stuff themselves. Of course, they are talking with 4 big companies for mass production. And well, of course, these companies, they will take the production into their hands. And they said that actually one of these 4 companies already has lots of experience with doing VR headsets. And all along the way, what they want to do, they want to expose the R&D product process to the world. And this interview was the start. Also, apart from that Kickstarter campaign, they still want to get funding from institutional investors, and they're looking at around $30 to $40 million. And that's it for this summary. All right, that was a really interesting interview. And again, I can only encourage you to watch it yourself and to get to know the CEO and the director and the engineers and simply get a feeling for yourself if you believe that this is a project that you would like to support. I really hope that you enjoyed this summary. If yes, give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you've not yet subscribed to MRTV yet, then absolutely do so now. And I'm looking forward to see you in the next episode.